Okay, welcome everybody. We are gonna let everyone stream on in, give people a chance to get settled. Trickling, trickling. Right, I think we're about half at registrants. So we may start some introductions if Robert and Molly feel good about that. All right. Well, again, welcome. Great to have you all join us for Taste of Art, Sparkling Wine presented by Chase as part of our Fridays After 5 series. My name is Celeste Fetta. I am Director of Education here at VMFA. And I'm delighted to welcome two special guests with us this evening, Robert Pence of Robbins Cellars and Molly McCurnin, lead mixologist from Amuse, my colleague at the museum. Welcome to you both. Again, really excited to have you in our actually last Taste of Art for 2020. We're taking, beer is having the week off because that would have fallen on Christmas Day. So you are bringing it home for us. Thanks so much again. So we're gonna taste two sparkling wines today, and Molly's also gonna talk about some sparkling wine cocktails that are popular in Amuse. So again, we really welcome you to tonight's tasting. The first slide we're going to look at, if some of you have been here before, you know the drill, but if you do not, just some reminders and some tips for how this works. So this is a webinar, which means that you can see us, the presenters, but we cannot see you. So use that to your advantage as you like. And if you're pairing wine with us this evening, usually I ask you to go ahead and open those bottles. But tonight, if you could wait for a prompt from Robert, because we are dealing with sparkling wine, which is a little bit different. We want to keep those bubbles fresh. So you'll hear from him when we're ready for you to open our selections. This is designed to be a conversation, an informal conversation. I may chat and ask Robert and Molly questions and vice versa. And we'll be asking you for your impressions of the wine and the art. And to do that, we encourage you to use the chat feature. So that's going to be at the bottom of your screen. You can select to chat with panelists or just everyone if you just want to share with the group. If you have any questions, please use the chat feature as well, just so we have one box to keep track of. And as each of us are talking and sharing, the other will keep an eye on the chat. So if we don't get to you, please just sit tight and we will try to answer those questions live as much as possible. So if that feels good to everybody, I'm going to introduce Robert, and he's going to tell us a little bit, about himself and Robbins Cellars, and start us off with the first selection. So take it away, Robert.
All right. Hello, everybody. Excited to be doing this. This is my first virtual tasting in the COVID settings. So thanks for joining us. In a moment, we'll all get to cheers. I've been a wine rep for the last 15 years, all in the Virginia market. So a lot of experience and a lot of fun selling wine in our beautiful state. For tonight's features to start, we're going to have a cava, which is from Spain. And this is a single estate and vintage, which you don't see commonly for a wine at this price point. What those both things indicate is single estate means it all came from one contiguous property, not multiple places throughout a growing region. And then the vintage means obviously that it came all from that year. And that's just really not common in too many things besides vintage champagne, which is quite expensive. The two great names that you see there, Macabo and not great with that pronunciation, Perlada, are native grapes to the Penedès region of Spain, which is on the map, which we'll get to in some short clicks here. Yeah. And that's in the northern eastern part of Spain where, yeah, there we go. It's very mountainous in that area and high elevation. And this particular vineyard is the highest elevated in the cava growing region. And cava is what they call sparkling wine in Spain, but it is made in the same method as true champagne is, meaning that the secondary fermentation takes place inside the bottle, each bottle individually as it ages on the lees. If you want to skip back one slide, we'll talk about the winemaker and owner. So that's Damia Deas. He's the winemaker and owner of the finca, which means the estate or winery where it's all produced. He's been in charge of the estate since 1985, and since 2013, I believe, has been the president of the Cava Association. So he's definitely a well-respected member among his peers, which is really what that means. And he helps to set the yearly growing requirements as far as, like, you know, how many tons per acre they're allowed to produce, things like that, that go into kind of more the behind the scenes part of winemaking. And then let's see. Yeah, so here's the beautiful winery. Spanish wineries are a lot of fun because they are so artistic. They don't look like a lot of their French counterparts, the chateaus and whatnot. You know, that looks like a, you know, crazy living work of art on top of a plateau. It's beautiful. At the bottom, you'll see those racks with the bottles. Those are called riddling racks. And that's, again, where the method traditional comes in. So after they make a still wine, and we'll see a slide later that'll illustrate all this, but I'll go ahead and talk about it a little now. They make a still wine, and then they add a dosage of sugar and liqueur to it, cork it, and then put it on this riddling rack and age it in a cave. And people come by and turn the racks or turn the bottles every so often to distribute the yeast around inside, which is where the secondary fermentation takes place. And again, you don't really like Prosecco. There's no Prosecco out there that does this. All Prosecco is made in the Charmat method, and that's where they make a still wine, put it in a big tank, then gas it with CO2, and then bottle it and cork it. And that's what you have with Prosecco and all most inexpensive sparkling wines, except for Cava. All Cava is method traditional. So that's just an added expense and shows really where Cava probably is the best sparkling wine value in the world.
Cool. Did not know that. All right. Should they try to open that?
And I know Celeste,
value for money.
Some people might have questions about how to open champagne bottles, so I'll demonstrate. A lot of people want to remove the cork or the cage as well as the foil, and you really want to just remove the foil. The cage actually helps give you something to grab onto. So you just take it. There we go. You can see me a little better. Untwist. And then kind of grip it from the top and then twist from the bottom. And I'm really kind of applying reverse pressure from the top. And then you get that nice little, you don't really want it to explode. You kind of want it to be pretty quiet. And there you go. Celeste, I don't know if you want to talk about the flutes or.
Yeah, I sure can. So these flutes, and again, give you all some time if you are tasting with us to open your bottle and grab your Fabergé flute. I'm just kidding. Whatever flute you have. These flutes are from our Fabergé collection, Imperial Champagne flutes. designed by McCurnin, who's the gentleman you see on the screen here, a workmaster who was with Fabergé. We have about 51 objects by Mikkel, including 3 Easter eggs, or eggs, Fabergé eggs, which we'll save for another focus tasting, I'm sure, in the future. The L that you see in the wreaths here on the stem is for Queen Louise of Denmark, who was the mother of the Dowager Empress Maria Feodorova. And these are crystal glasses and gold base and filigree, really, really beautiful, and a great, way to showcase how you drink the champagne or the sparkling wine. And I guess the question, I've also seen kind of champagne coupe glasses too. So I don't know if Robert or Molly want to talk about kind of the difference between, oh, there you go. Nice. Kind of the pros and cons with using a different kind of glass. I know we didn't rehearse this, but it's just coming to mind thinking about those differences and maybe a question that people have.
Sure. Molly, I've got some, but if you want to go, do you have any info on that?
Well, to my knowledge, the coupe was sort of the old style, and then the flute is the more modern glassware, and it, correct me if I'm wrong, but it holds the bubbles better. Yep. The coupe sort of releases it more quickly, but it also looks so pretty.
It does, and in recent years, the trend is kind of swinging back a little because as the sommeliers out there have gotten nerdier with it, the wider the base is, you get a little bigger aroma, and especially with like nice champagne, it's a nice base wine to start. So you want to taste the wine. It's not necessarily all about keeping the bubbles as tight.
Yes, I've just noticed in pouring this glass of wine within 5 minutes, it's changed a lot. The taste it's really opened up. So there's something to say for the coupe, I think.
Yeah. Agree.
Nice. Well, if everyone feels like they have their pour and wants to start tasting, we could also take a moment to make a toast. So yesterday was our 1-year anniversary of the installation and unveiling of Rumors of War at the museum. And we're doing a series of programming yesterday we did one with jazz, doing a tribute to that moment. And tonight we are toasting. So I'm going to raise a glass and encourage Robert and Molly to do a virtual toast to Rumors of War and celebrating the 1 year of it being installed. To the right, you see Kehinde Wiley, the artist, and just really excited to have this work grace our front lawn. And as a gift really to the city. And if you're in the area, want to come visit the museum tonight, last night, tonight, and tomorrow night, we'll be showing a projection on the museum. This was a commission that the museum did with Dustin Klein and Alex Sirkew, 2 Richmond artists who have received international and national acclaim for their projections on the Lee Monument. And that projection will be going on, tonight from 6 to 9. So it starts in the middle of our talk, and then tomorrow 6 to 9, but it's also on YouTube as a video. If you can't get to the museum or you prefer to watch from the comfort of your home, you can do so. So I'm actually drinking sparkling water because I'm in my office, it's very weird. So cheers to Kehinde. So we're, as I go to the next one, we actually have a question in the chat about the cost of the wine. So Robert, if you could remind us what the cost is for.
I think you guys had it on the VMFA website for around 20.
I think that's right. Yes. So you can purchase this through VMFA to go. It's on special. But Robert, where else could you find this wine?
I haven't sold it to any specific accounts myself. It's not a wine that is in large retail. So if you've got like a bottle shop like J. Emerson's or Barrel Thief, those are all in the Richmond area, but a local wine store in whatever area you're in, you should be able to, if they don't carry it, order it through them. because it's not one that's readily available in chain stores at this time.
Great. So it's a real exclusive in a way, right? Yeah.
And it's definitely a smaller production cava to be, again, vintage and from a single estate. You'll notice if you look at the cavas in the grocery store, none of them are vintaged or even name necessarily a lot of times what part of the Penedès they come from and stuff. So it really is a pretty special bottling.
That's great. Well, thanks for bringing it to us for this tasting and giving us that sneak peek. So again, it's available through VMFA to go, so you can get to that through our website and just order that way and pick it up curbside anytime. Actually, Wednesday through Sunday, or Wednesday through Saturday, I think the dates are. So that was a great question. Thanks so much for asking. So to kind of kick it back to Spain and connect to, we're talking about works of art that are all about celebrating and kind of ringing in the holiday season. And in Spain, a big celebration is actually after Christmas with Epiphany that celebrates the Three Kings. And the Three Kings are who actually bring the presents rather than, well, in addition to sometimes Santa Claus. So I've selected this work to talk about The Three Kings. It's a Christmas card design from 1967 by A.B. Jackson, or Alexander Brooks Jackson Jr. And it depicts the three kings kind of a la sort of Rembrandt. And Rembrandt was a big influence for Jackson and his work, very figurative work. And the three kings known as Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar. So Caspar, king of India, Melchior, king of Persia, and Balthazar, king of Arabia. And Alexander Jackson, this is a picture of him in front of another one of his works. Again, you can really see that influence of Rembrandt in his styling and composition and concentration on the human figure. And he began teaching in the art department at ODU in 1967 as the university's first Black faculty member. So really paved the way in a lot of ways. At ODU, he lived in Norfolk and Ghent. But he was actually from Connecticut. His mother was Irish. And his father was African American. So he studied in Connecticut, went to Yale, and then moved down to Virginia again, working at ODU. And also at Norfolk State University. So he was the chair of that fine arts department there. And so he really became well known for documenting Ghent, the neighborhood Ghent. So if anyone's from Norfolk or knows Norfolk as an area, he was really documenting the original residents of that neighborhood before it was gentrified. It was really important for him to capture what life was like. And we have 6 works by him in the collection. One of these is a portrait of a porch lady. So he did a whole series called Porch People. So that's something he was really well known for. And one of the quotes that I came across from him that really appealed to me, he said, "I don't teach drawing and painting, I teach seeing." And that was really important for him. Again, kind of coming back to that documentary style and really that figurative style that he was really well known for. And then I just showcase some other Christmas cards designs. So this started as an annual commission by Leslie Cheek, one of our directors, in 1949. So on the left is the first Christmas card that was commissioned by an artist. And this tradition went on annually, as I mentioned, through 1972. So I just show you some other examples of Christmas cards. In the middle bottom is one by Benjamin Wigfall, who was one of the first African-American fellowship winner, actually in the 1940s. So we have a couple works by him. That's really beautiful, abstracted kind of forest scene with snow falling down. And then on the right is kind of later on The bottom right is the last Christmas card that was commissioned in 1972. The middle image is by Teresa Pollock. If you're from VCU or Richmond, you know that name as well. And I love kind of just how you see the styles change across time, represented here. So if you find any of these Christmas cards, let us know, hanging out. These are the original designs. And it's hard to find the actual cards themselves. So what would happen, like in A.B. Jackson's case, oh, sorry, I'm looking for it's so hard to see the arrows on here, so I can't go back. Hold on, Molly, I'm gonna get to you.
Okay.
So what we would do, here we go. Ugh. So this is the original drawing. So this would enter the collection, and then the card would be printed in limited quantities and sold in the shop. So sometimes we have record of the card and sometimes we don't. So again, it's just really cool to have that original design, and this was made specifically for the museum by Mr. Jackson, which is really cool. And again, commemorating this idea of the Three Kings, which is a major part of the holiday in Spain. So coming back to kind of the celebration of holidays and cards, and that spreading of good wishes, I'm going to turn it over to Molly, who's going to spread some good wishes through cocktails and talk a little bit about how we use sparkling wine in cocktails. So Molly, just let me know when you'd like to advance.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Molly McCurnin. I am the lead mixologist at Amuse, the fine dining restaurant at the VMFA. If you've been into Amuse in the past 10 years or so and had a cocktail, there's a good chance you've had one of my drinks. And Amuse is really special because our drinks are themed around our major exhibitions. So we've had drinks inspired by Kehinde Wiley, Dale Chihuly, Rodin, French Impressionists. And we like to incorporate ingredients from all over the world too. So China, Russia, Scandinavia, India, Congo. So it's a lot of fun. We always are inspired by the art and experimentation. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about sparkling cocktails, and I'm going to sort of introduce some that you might be familiar with, and then talk about how to sort of amusify them, like how to put a twist on them yourself and turn them into craft cocktails. So yeah, go ahead. Next slide. Okay, we're going to start with a champagne cocktail, which is probably the oldest sparkling cocktail and absolutely the easiest one to make. It is a sugar cube that you douse with bitters, and then you top it off with your sparkling wine. This is traditionally you'd use Angostura bitters for this one, which you may have had in an old fashioned or a Manhattan. But this is a really good way to use maybe the funky bitters you like impulse bought and you don't really know what to do with. Like cranberry bitters would be nice in this, peach, pretty much anything you'd like to try. And as you drink, the sugar cube will slowly dissolve and lightly sweeten the wine, and you'll get the flavor from the bitters. So this is a really easy place to start when creating your own sparkling cocktail. And even simpler than that is you can purchase flavored sugar cubes that you just drop in your wine. And if you'll grant me a minute of self-promotion, I actually have a little Etsy shop that I sell flavored sugar cubes specifically for use in cocktails, either sparkling cocktails, or you can use them in old fashions, things like that. So if you'd be interested in such a thing, feel free to check it out. Okay, and y'all can go to the next one.
And Molly had a quick question too,
Sure.
just thinking about like the base or the sparkling wine you would use in that. Question for you and Robert too, thinking back to our Petite Cava, and we actually didn't talk about a little bit about the flavors that people might be experiencing with the Petite Cava, and I'm sorry, am I saying that right? Thank you. And if that would work in any of these cocktails, or any kind of flavors that people should kind of expect from what they're tasting now, and how you might imagine that going with that first cocktail that you showed us.
Personally, I love to use cava in sparkling cocktails. It is nuanced enough that it really adds something, but you're also maybe not using your most expensive, your real champagne, because the other things you add to it are kind of sort of overwhelm the more delicate flavors of your wine. So cava to me is a really good sort of middle ground to make cocktails with, because it's still very high quality, but you're not, I don't want to say wasting it, but you're not losing the subtlety either.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't have said that better. That's 100% perfect.
We use Blanc de Blanc often too, which I feel like are sort of in the same league.
Yeah, both the Blanc de Blanc and a Cava, they're going to have lower residual sugar than a Prosecco or even a lower cost non-vintage wine from California, like a typical mimosa bubbly. Those are all going to have higher sugar levels, which I would imagine you'd want to keep the sugar from the wine as much as possible, so you can have more to manipulate with the drink.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And as people who may be tasting this Petit Cava, kind of what flavors are you all getting as you're drinking this wine? Again, we always like to say for this, it's like, just like looking at art, everyone's going to see something different or kind of take something away. So, just interested from your takeaways as you're sipping along.
Yeah, sure. I get a lot of apple pear type aromas with a nice kind of stony mineral kind of finish to it, where you can sort of tell that it is from that rocky slate kind of area of Spain. Someone had asked what the name was. Yeah, and it's hard to see, but Can Petite Cava. So it's it's kind of a basic name.
Easy to remember.
Petite. But yeah, and those are very standard flavors, or like typical flavors for that grape in that area. But it's very clean. You don't get, I don't have any like residual sugary leftover, you take your sip and it's clean, which is perfect for toasts, anything where you're being social, be left with that thick.
Yeah. And Molly, how about you? Kind of this.
Well, if I'm being honest, I skipped right to the other bottle. But yeah, it tastes delicious. We can talk about that then.
Yeah. And if anyone else is tasting that first one and wants to kind of drop in the chat kind of the flavors that they're getting, and actually a question from Susie. Sorry, I name it Susie. Hey Susie, what is the best way to preserve sparkling wine after it's opened?
Well, there's
besides drinking it.
So you can buy, I don't have one next to me, but there are sparkling wine closures or champagne closures that they have a part that goes inside. Thanks, my handler got me a display. But yeah, so it'll have a bottom like this. I don't know if you can kind of see. It goes in and plugs it up, and then this loops around to close it like that and keep the lid on. And that'll, if you don't open it again, it'll keep its fizz for a good day, maybe a day and a half. But once you've opened it a second or a third time, the carbonation that's inside the bottle will have escaped.
Okay.
But do be aware too, when you do open it that next time, it can be rather forceful.
Yeah, I've had them take off on me before.
It's such a satisfying sound, though, I have to say.
Well, I was always told if you've opened your champagne correctly, it should sound like a lady sighing.
Yes.
Which I'm sure came from the French. That has to be.
That's great.
And speaking of French, our next drink is the French 75, which for such a glamorous drink, it's named after heavy artillery from the First World War. But it's a lovely little concoction of gin, a little bit of sweetener, usually simple syrup, and then a little dash of lemon. And this drink is so riffable. You can take this kind of formula and replace one or all the parts in it to completely make it your own. In Amuse, we love to make flavored syrups with fresh fruits or herbs. And so you could switch out your simple syrup for, say, a strawberry thyme syrup. We've done that before. Cucumber is delicious and simple as can be, and really brings out the refreshing nature of the sparkling wine. And then say you don't like gin, use something else. Like if you like whiskey, how about whiskey, a little honey syrup and lemon would be delicious. Or just knock out the whole thing and let's do tequila, lime juice, and a little bit of Cointreau. So you have sort of a sparkling margarita.
Oh.
Yeah. So once a lot of when we make cocktails at Amuse, I sort of look for these formulas in drinks and classic drinks that really stood this test of time, and work from there, because there's a reason why they're delicious. There's a reason why people like them. And we, rather than start from the ground up, we go with what works and, tweak them and make them our own. And we've had many variations of a 75 over the years.
Great.
We can go to the next one if you like. Oh, y'all know this one, I'm sure. Everyone's had a mimosa. And, not only is it, just a, delicious drink, but it's one that's completely appropriate to drink before noon, which works really well at Amuse because we are mostly a lunch restaurant. And so there's a lot of guests that we have that want to try our cocktails, but might not be ready for a stiff drink, at lunchtime. And so our sparkling drinks are really sort of low proof way to experience the flavors that we're working with. And again, I was talking about these sort of formulas for drinks. With your mimosa, you have a juice, orange juice in this case, a liqueur, triple sec, which is an orange liqueur, and then you top it with sparkling wine. And if you were to play with this one, you could switch out the juice and the liqueurs. Like for instance, on our menu right now, we have a drink we're calling the lychee blossom, which is a lychee liqueur and grapefruit with the sparkling wine, which works really nicely because lychee's very sweet, kind of musky. And then the grapefruit, the acid and the bitterness really grounds those sweeter flavors and brings it all together. But again, what juice do you like? Put that in instead, play back and forth. Grapefruit also would really go well with elderflower, Saint Germain, which is a very popular, people love Saint Germain. That would be really nice in this one as well.
Great.
And I actually invented just the sort of holiday type mimosa, if you want to go to the next slide, for you guys to try out at your socially distant holiday celebrations. And you can also come up to Amuse and have it. It's on the menu right now. So for this one, we did pomegranate juice, Grand Marnier, which is an orange liqueur that's a brandy base that also is infused with some spices. So it has a nice warm kind of rich flavor to it, whereas your triple sec will be sort of more light and sweet. This one has, some depth to it. And then a dash of bitters. In this case, I'm using Angostura bitters, which again has nice spice, cinnamon, clove, and again, a little bit of bitterness, which again grounds it. And then, top it with your cava or your sparkling wine. And as you can see, very festive in color. And I also, when making drinks, really try to focus on seasonality as well, bringing in, produce, fruits and vegetables that are, of the season. So in this case, pomegranate is a winter fruit, and it's very evocative of the holidays. So here you go.
It's very pretty. Very pretty.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt that it's a beautiful color too.
And someone's asking for us to go back to the sugar cube slide.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh, the flavors, your slide. Hold on.
Yeah.
Make sure they get the Etsy.
Yeah.
This one, I think, Sonia, that's what you're asking. So it's Black Cat Cocktail Company. If you just type that into the Etsy site, it should take you to your site.
Yeah, and I do a lot of sugar cubes. I use a lot of floral flavors for this, and again, spice notes. And a fun aspect of these sugar cubes, I also add edible mica to them. So as they dissolve, it actually makes your drink glitter, which It's just the most festive thing. It doesn't change the flavor. You can't taste the texture or anything, but it just sort of like dances in the bubbles, and you can see. Yeah, it's fun. Just something different.
It's a good stocking stuffer.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And if y'all want to go to, let's see, the last one. All right. If y'all have been to Amuse before, you may be familiar with the Purple Rain. It's far and away our most popular sparkling cocktail we've ever done. Even when it's not on the menu, people ask about it. We do our best to keep the ingredients in stock because pretty much at least once a week, someone will ask us to make it off menu because they really like it. The ingredients for this are creme de violette, which is a liqueur flavored with violets, the flower, which also gives it this beautiful sort of gray, blue, purple color. Cocchi Americano, which is a fortified wine from Italy, which has a nice sort of citrusy flavor, but again, a little bitterness to the finish. A little dash lemon juice to balance out the sweetness of the creme de violette because it's quite sweet. And then again, your sparkling wine. You may have noticed in a lot of these drinks, it's all about balancing the flavors because some things are very sweet, some things are tart, and it's really about finding the ratio that's right for you too. So if you like to make this at home, if you like it sweeter, make it sweeter. That's fine. Do it how you like it. So this is a good place to start with making your own craft sparkling cocktails, but make them to your taste. If you want it sweeter, make it sweeter. If you don't want it sweet at all, leave it out.
Great.
And find what you like. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you so much, Molly.
Oh, my pleasure.
These like inside scoops on some of the favorite cocktails. I feel like I don't know how I've missed this one. So next time I am there, or actually I might try to make it at home too, because I know we have creme de violette at home.
Oh, do you? Yeah, that's a nice one you can use in sort of your 75 too. Use gin, a little bit of the creme de violette, again, a little splash of lemon, and that's a really nice combination.
Nice. Good tip. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And again, if you have more questions for Molly, just pop those in the chat and we can answer them as we go. And again, keep it on the sparkling wine train. We're going to go to our next selection that Molly's already sampling, which is fine. So Robert, tell us a little bit about the Paula Cornell Brut Sparkling.
All right, so this is a inaugural release from a lifetime wine person. Vigneron is what they would say in France. So this particular bottling, though, is appellated to the state of California. So that means the grapes came from various places, unlike the last one, which I mentioned was a single estate. It is made in the same way with where you see it says method champenoise. And like champagne, it's 80%. Well, the percentages aren't necessarily the same, but grapes, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. There's a third grape that's used in champagne called Meunier, but those are legally the only 3 grapes allowed to make champagne, true champagne. And so following suit with that, as many California sparkling winemakers have done, she's making hers from Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. All right, and then the next slide, there is a really cool illustration that Celeste got off their website that shows the full process of making a sparkling wine. So yeah, I mean, you can see it all right there. The tirage, I'm sorry, maybe I used the dosage is the second edition. So always more to learn about wine. Doesn't matter how long you've been part of it, it is endlessly informative. A really cool history with Paula Cornell. So her father was, sorry, we're skipping over or should we, that's right, we're opening at the end. So this wine comes from the central coast of California, so a little south of where Napa and Sonoma are. If you looked on the website, she does make 2 sparkling wines. The traditional Brut that is from Appalachia to California, and then she has one that's appellated to Napa. I'm sure many of you know Napa is very expensive, and there are not affordable wines that come from there. So that wouldn't work for what this sparkling wine is, which is meant to be an everyday wine. So when currently where winemakers are looking for those grapes is the Central Coast, which is just south of San Francisco, and it stops just north of Los Angeles. If you were to just go a little bit further past Santa Barbara, another hour is where LA is. So this area is really neat because the closer you are to the mouth at like the San Francisco Bay, and then again down in the southern where San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara are, that's where the Chardonnay and Pinot Noir are grown, because they're closer to those bay openings, where the opening itself, there's a valley that runs up there from it, and it sucks the cold air and moisture from the Pacific Ocean in, and that cools the vineyards down, which is really what allows for good Chardonnay and good Pinot Noir. The movie Sideways, people, talk about it often for killing Merlot, and it kind of did, but it also just gave way to a lot of bad Pinot Noir. They ripped up a lot of bad Merlot. It's just been replanted with bad Pinot Noir. And the difference is that Pinot Noir is a much more delicate grape. It is the thinnest skinned of all red wine grapes, the most susceptible to rot as well. And so it really needs to be it thrives in cool climates, which, as we all know, California isn't particularly cool. So it's the microclimates within where it thrives. And that's important to having a good sparkling wine.
Great.
Hans Cornell is her father, and his story is really interesting. He was born in Germany in the, I don't know when, but early 1900s. And in the 1930s went to I have it highlighted, the Geisenheim Enological Institute in the 1930s, and was a winemaker in Germany and France before World War II started. And then in 1938, he was arrested by the Germans and sent to Dachau. After 8 months, and he is not sure why, but he was released and told he had 48 hours to get out of Germany. And so he did. And he made his way to England, and then from England got on a boat and was heading to America. That boat was torpedoed by a German U-boat. He was rescued and did make it to Ellis Island with $2 in his pocket. Hitchhiked to California because he loved wine and knew that there was a wine industry burgeoning there, and started to work making wine for other winemakers, and then eventually did open his own sparkling wine facility called Hans Cornell's Cellars. And he made sparkling wine with Riesling to start, which is what he was making in Germany. But as the 60s and 70s went on and California's wine boom started to happen, he too started to make with Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, because that's what a lot of the French influence, which was coming in and buying up property like Domaine Carneros, Chandon. Those are both California properties, but they are owned by the Taittinger family and the Moet and Chandon family, respectively. Unfortunately, he could not keep up with their growth, and once the contracts with the airlines were lost to those larger companies, his winery went under, and he passed. But Paula worked in the winery from a very young age, doing everything from selling. They also had walnuts. There she is. Yep. And plums that they grew on, and they had other fruit trees that they grew. She sold at the fruit stand in front of the house, because Napa was a very, very different place back then than it is today. And at 12 or 13, she was doing tours and hand labeling the bottles. And then after the family winery closed, she took a job with Robert Mondavi, eventually becoming head of sales for the West Coast for him, and then helping to launch a few other wineries as well. And then she was approached by Paula Duckhorn to open a consulting business because of her lifetime in the industry. And so through that, she met the man who offered to help her start her own business and have her own winery and flagship name. And she today is also, it's a really cool story to read about, but she also is on the board of the Napa Humane Society and the Queen of the Valley Hospital. So she's a very busy and involved woman. And the one that we are tasting tonight was just announced is actually the number 5 wine in the Wine Spectator Top 100 this year, which is really, really pretty amazing to happen on your inaugural vintage. It's quite cool, and a wonderful, circle of, life and redemption and all of that type of stuff.
It's an amazing story. I mean, I think just her father's story, and her mother also was involved in altruistic. I mean, I think I served on the same hospital board as her and really led the way and destigmatizing, I think, childhood diseases like cerebral palsy, and I think she might also be related to an artist, and I can't remember which one, but just fascinating story. And I think continuing that family tradition is really marvelous. So we're tasting the one on the right.
Correct, with the striped cap. So yes, and the one on the left is you can see, if you look closely, you can't read it very well, but you can see it does actually have a vintage on that lower label. So that is juice that is off of, just Napa Valley, and is from a particular vintage, but it's warm. So one thing you will find is if your sparkling wine does shoot out, because I was pushing back against it and it still makes noise like that, it means you didn't have it quite cold enough.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But cheers. So
cheers. So we'll pour that out into your next glass. And again, if you're tasting on at home, go ahead and do that, and maybe take a sip, and maybe talk with Robert and Molly can talk a little bit about what you're tasting and getting.
Yeah, so with this, I get immediately a lot more of like the bready, yeasty aromas that you find in champagne. There's a quote from her that I found earlier where she said something. She wants this to be not have a hint of sweetness, which adds to its quality, because in a sparkling wine, sugar is often used to cover up off flavors or aromas.
Delicious.
Yeah. You really can taste that it's Chardonnay, it's that kind of golden apple, almost not buttery. It's not a buttery Chardonnay, but it does still, it has that body and texture to it that Chardonnay has.
Yeah, a little toasty, maybe a little bit of almond, which is nice.
And just some questions coming in on the Q&A board. Sorry, I've been looking at the chat board. So where can you find the Paula Cornell in Charlottesville?
That I don't know, because I sell just to the Richmond area. I will say we have had, as the distributor I work for, we have had several Kroger's pick it up individually, not as like, it's not in their wine set, but in their kind of cellar selection area. So if you're, and I know there's a couple in Charlottesville that do have those. They often call them the 90-20 sections. That means it has 90 points or more and it's under $20 on the shelf. I know for sure, like I've got it at the Short Pump Carytown Kroger. It was at the Staples Mill Carytown Kroger. I think they sold out yesterday though. Because the news, with the news landing of it number 5 in the Wine Spectator, it's getting snapped up pretty quickly. So I would check there at the Kroger. I think it's what is that shopping center? Anyways, the shopping center, Braddock's Road or whatever in Charlottesville would probably be a good place to look there.
And I think another similar question is this Paula Cornell available in Virginia in addition to VMFA to go? So I guess other than VMFA to go in this area, again, I think kind of referencing what you said before, you know your local wine shop.
These are just not, they're not Veuve Clicquot, Moet Chandon. They're not the brands that are out there in your face. These are small production, family owned, and sometimes that requires a little hunting.
Mm-hmm. But still available at VMFA to go. Just going to plug that one more time. And then someone else has said Cornell is from Caneros or St. Helena. I don't know, as a comment.
As far as is that a question where her vineyard there
Possibly,
is?
Yeah.
I don't actually know, because I don't think a part of the story is that she doesn't have like a winery of her own per se. Like she is still what they're doing, like what they call like custom crush, where she is sourcing juice and then using a winery to make it and bottle it, and it's all under her direction. I don't think that there is a place. Now the family property that they had is now known as, I do have that, Frank Cellars. And that's a winery in Napa. And if you apparently Google that, it is the logo that's on the bottle today is the house that she grew up in.
Oh, okay.
I did find that.
That might be this then. I don't know.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
And I mean, she works with the Vintage Wine Estates. Those are the people who own Clos Pegase, B.R. Cone, Swanson Vineyards, handful of other California properties that are really nice. So she's got wonderful facilities at her fingertips and decades of relationships, which is why she's able to craft an amazing wine kind of on her, not necessarily first try, but first try under her own name.
Yeah, great. And Diane is mentioning Total in Alexandria listed.
They could. It's possible.
Yeah. Okay, so as you're tasting, again, we're going to come back to our holiday theme and visit a couple more works of art from the collection. So I selected this work, the Kiddish Cup by Franz Merdell, who's from Germany. So a kind of nod to Hans, both in kind of nationality and also religious practice. So it's also the second night of Hanukkah. So happy Hanukkah if you're celebrating. And this work is from the 18th century. And the Kiddush or sanctification is a prayer that's recited over a cup of wine, probably not sparkling, but for the Sabbath, so on Friday evening. So again, if you're celebrating Hanukkah, or you might do this later tonight. And the inscription here, you see the Hebrew inscription. I show a detail of really some gorgeous decoration of flowers and acanthus leaves. At the bottom, you also see kind of at the base of the cup, the former owner initials here, DD, it looks like. And the Hebrew inscription, we believe, says, Moses declared unto the children of Israel the feast of the Lord. So that is that goes with that sanctification of the wine for the start of Sabbath. So again, just linking back to Cornell, and also another vessel, a way to drink wine, in this case on a religious occasion. So again, happy Hanukkah to those who are celebrating evening. And just to build kind of this idea, kind of linking back to what Paula is doing, again, what Robert was sharing, kind of using different grapes and really working from the land and the areas that her father came to. Again, this links back to Hans and her mother, who's also a German immigrant, like this painter, Severin Rosen. So he was born in Germany and then immigrated to the United States. and brought the tradition of still life painting with him. That's linked back to Dutch painting. So if you're familiar with Dutch painting, this idea of still life and kind of the transition of time, or a memento mori. So you'll see in this painting flowers at full bloom and some wilting flowers, fruit at full, peak. And then that watermelon, for example, that's half eaten. So kind of time is fleeting, but this also celebrates the abundance of nature, which is the title here, and all the fruits and flowers in America. So this is really a nod by Severin Rosen, and really a uplifting message of positivity and harvest, and what he is seeing as an immigrant coming to the United States, which is a really nice thing to think about. In this work too, there is wine. Again, not sparkling, but in that detail image, we see a glass of white wine here in the foreground. And Rosen is just a master of detail. And I'm trying to find my pointer, and it's, oh, here we go. So hard to see. So here's the wine, and I don't know if you can make out, but right on the left here, there's actually a reflection of a window. And that he's included to give you some depth, an idea of kind of what may be behind the artist, which is really amazing. And other details he's including here, again, hard to make out, but that is a ladybug, and kind of peppered throughout all of this painting. There's a fly, there's some ladybugs, and dew droplets. I don't know if you can see that on kind of the flowers and the leaves. We see a nest with 3 eggs here, and the grapes, I mean, look so lifelike and just about to burst. All this fruit here, and raspberries. Now, I know some of these don't come all at the same time, so there is some artistic license here to create this amazing still life. And he was known for these still lifes, typically though separate. So he may concentrate on a flower arrangement for one and a still life with fruit on the other, but it's very rare that you see them combined and at this scale. So it's a great tribute to, again, his artistic talent, but also, again, sort of a metaphor for the possibilities, that are ahead in this really bountiful time, right at the Gilded Age, right after the Industrial Revolution. So a lot of promise. This work actually hung in a estate in Virginia, I think in Albemarle County. So again, it has a nice Virginia tie as well. And it's really a fan favorite. It hangs in our American galleries right now. So again, if you come by the museum, so you can see this work on view. Same with I believe the Kiddish Cup is on view as well. So come and see this, and then go up and have a Purple Rain if you want. And then another holiday that is coming up at the end of the year, so usually December 26th and runs through January 1st, is Kwanzaa. And this has a great connection back to, again, the rosin we just looked at, and also thinking about harvesting and grapes. So Kwanzaa is a non-religious holiday created in 1966 to really connect African Americans back to their roots of Africa. And there are symbols that go along with Kwanzaa, as well as 7 nights and 7 candles, or 7 characteristics that go with that, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I wanted to tie this to the rosin and thinking about one of the symbols of matzo, fruits and vegetables, and showcase this beautiful headdress from our collection, the Chiwara, from the Bamana people of Mali. And the Chiwara, again, this is about celebrations and festivals. So the Bamana people believe that the Chiwara, this is a male Chiwara, and you see in this image the female Chiwara with the little baby Chiwara on her back here, would come out at the beginning of harvest to announce the harvest and celebrate the harvest. And they would be danced. So this is actually a headdress, and you see that here. So what's with African art, sometimes all of the parts of the mask or headdress sometimes are stripped away, and that's kind of this veneration of this idea of, you know, as sculpture rather than functional use that happen. And thankfully, there are a couple pieces in the collection where we do have the headdress intact. So I wanted to show you an image of what the entire piece would look like. And you see this raffia that would kind of surround the dancer here and come off of the chihuahua headdress. And if you go closer here, there are some holes in the base, and that's where the raffia would be tied around, but also a string would be held on the dancer's head there. And the chihuahua is a mythical creature with the horns of an antelope and the face of an aardvark. And you can see that pointed there. And if you think about what an aardvark does, it digs, right? Just like you would be digging to plant. And there's also sort of an interpretation of the pattern here on the body is kind of the zigzagging of the antelope as he's running across the field. And then the horns is also symbolic of the wheat shafts that grow, or the grain shafts that grow. So a lot of symbolism with this piece, again, linking back to this idea, one of the 7 symbols of Kwanzaa. And again, if you're not familiar with Kwanzaa, just sharing the principles of Kwanzaa so that they link up with each of the nights that's celebrated, and with the lighting of a candle, very similar to a menorah with Hanukkah. And I wanted to kind of end here because I feel like we've done some of these qualities just in the talk, especially around Kumba or creativity. So just thanking Robert and Molly for sharing kind of their knowledge and creativity with the wine selections tonight and the cocktails. I feel like we've had collective work to get here. And I think with all of this too, just wishing you all a very happy holiday as we jump into 2021, which I know, so happy to see. So thank you so much. I'm gonna put a plug for our next Taste of Art programs, again, presented by Chase, and thank you to Chase, our sponsor. So in January, we're going to be concentrating on Virginia, both for the wine tasting, which is on Friday, January 8th, looking at the Shenandoah and Madison County regions of Virginia, and focusing on selections from our VMFA on the Road exhibition, which is Landscapes of Virginia. And then the next beer tasting will be Virginia beers from the Natural Bridge area, because we have a show opening right after that tasting called Arcadia, which is looking at the depiction of Natural Bridge. And that will be opening in February. So we wanted to celebrate that. And real quick, I will do a plug, if you just can't get enough of Zoom tonight, or are interested in Sunken Cities right now, and you can still register. We have a Sunken Cities lecture just starting, which focuses on the conservation of, I guess, artifacts that may be underwater. So again, I'd encourage you to join that. And as a reminder, our Rumors of War projection is going on right now and will happen again tomorrow from 6 to 9, or you can catch it on YouTube. So with that, again, I want to thank Robert and Molly. Thank you so much. I learned a lot about champagne, about sparkling wine. It's not champagne, about cava and the Paula Cornell. Again, I really appreciate you giving us really access to these two wines that may be difficult to find. So again, you can get them at VMFA to go. Great choices. And Molly, again, just sharing this behind the scenes of those cocktails was really great.
Anytime.
Thank you all so much. And thank you all for joining us today. Again, if you miss it, if you want to see it again, we record these and pop these on YouTube in about a week. So happy holidays, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.